quality management. Before moving to this introduction, my name is Suryakant Bhavi, as a senior consultant management system solution. 15 years experience in manufacturing quality and consulting, implement projects in terms of different systems like ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, AS 9100, auto med device quality management system, F&B. These different management system I have had many organizations to implement these, and also I have audited different organizations in terms of different standards, and I also worked as a certified faculty for different topics like different management systems, internal audit and effective problem solving, project management, FME, and many more, right? So let us move to the topic now. In this topic, in this webinar, I will be like an end-to-end the supplier management process, right from the onboarding process to the supplier performance monitoring. So in this process, you will see a different supplier management processes like supplier receiving inspection, like supplier onboarding, actions, change management, right? So many more different processes in terms of the supplier management. So let us proceed with the first agenda point, the supplier management overview on the supplier management process. When we talk about the supplier management process, a lot of many sub processes in it. And why the supplier management process is crucial, because if you look at your own organization, most of the approximately 70 to 80% of the components we procure from the suppliers. So just imagine if you are not getting the right inputs from the supplier or vendor, then how can we expect that our outputs are going the desired one or as per the specification? So that is the reason it is very crucial for any customer to ensure the products or the materials which are received from the suppliers, that those are as per your specification conditions, right? So if you look at the slide from the supplier onboarding to the supplier performance monitoring, so all these processes are part of the supplier management process. Like once you onboard the competent suppliers or the right suppliers, then you have to approve the material, where before going for the regular procurement, you have to make sure that the material approval or production part approval needs to be approved from the customer, from your side, so that your vendor will be able to match the materials to you, right? And talking about the receiving inspection, once the material got approved or the product got approved, then your receiving inspection team, they will receive the part, and as per the sampling plan, inspection plan, or as per the defined criteria, they will inspect the materials and they will give the approvals. And if there is any non-conformances or any of the gaps, then they have to get the supplier corrective actions from the supplier, so that has to be closed on time. And you'll be also carrying out the supplier audits to ensure in terms of the QMS audits, in terms of the compliance audits. So you'll perform those audits, and if there are any observations or any non-conformances, again the supplier corrective actions reports would be required for that. Then the change management, I've just covered some of the important processes as a part of the process, but other than this, some customers, they also mention they also have a control on the training part and also the documentation part, so that they want to have a control on the document also related to the suppliers. So this is how you can see the end-to-end the process in terms of the supplier. So now let us understand the supplier onboarding process. So before that, let us understand why it is important, why the industries. The first one is cost optimization in operations. When you ensure the quality assurance, when you ensure the competent suppliers onboarded, and doing the audits on time, proactively capturing the issues so that the future issues can be reduced, so that the and ensure the consistent of inputs, because whenever you procure the material from your suppliers, the quality has to be consistent. So how it is going to be consistent? You'll be selecting the right competent suppliers. You'll be ensuring the inspection criteria, the product approvals or the process approvals, so that they will be ensuring that they are meeting to your requirements, and you'll be ensuring process or the SCAR process, so that they have to submit the action on time, so that you will not face any customer concerns. Then talking about the mitigation of supply chain risk, so you will be carrying out the risk assessment or contingency plans as a part of the supply chain management, so that the risk can be mitigated. Then the boost performance by using the supplier management process, ultimately as a collaborative approach or collective approach involving your suppliers, where they will be contributing to your success, and also based on your business growth, they will also be growing as a collectively. Then encouraging innovation and technology growth as a part of the supplier management process, collaborative approach. You will be educating your suppliers then what kind of technologies or what kind of innovations needs to be done, like a Kaizen culture or the different continual improvement process, right? As a part of the continual improvement process, so you are encouraging your suppliers to go for the innovation and growth as a part of the supplier management process. And the last one is definitely like complying to the standard requirements or the compliance requirements. It is based on the commodity and sectors, like let's say the aerospace AS 9100. Most of the common industries, manufacturing processes, they will follow ISO 9001. It can be 22000, it can be 13485. So based on the different sector specific customers, they will ask their the standard requirements and also the compliance requirements. So now let us proceed with the supplier onboarding. The supplier onboarding, we as a customer, we need to identify the right suppliers, or I can say the competent suppliers. So most of the times in hurry we select the suppliers, and in future we face a lot of issues, right? So we need to understand what kind of important aspects needs to be covered as a part of the process, right? We have to have a clear qualification. So we have to have a criteria with the risk level, and we also need to have the categorization, like for the strategic level we are assessing the suppliers, or the criticality or non-critical suppliers. So we have to have the different categorization, right? And whenever we conduct the initial supplier assessments with our own criteria, so we need to understand the capability of financial level in terms of the different QC and QA aspects, right? So these should be a part of the initial assessments. And one more important aspect is you also need to understand the existing customer delivery and quality performance, so that as a new customer, you will not be getting the performance related to you, right? So you need to understand what is the performance level in terms of customers, so that you can assess them effectively. And also like NDA or ESG requirements or security. So these different aspects also needs to be a part of your initial assessments. Let us talk about the PPAP process, why it is linked. Especially this is like the add-on like process for the discrete manufacturing. If I consider the pharma or the industries, so they will be having the material qualification, recipe qualification process. So that process will be a part of at this stage, so that they will qualify that process, they will qualify the recipe or material or the product, so that they will get the the suppliers can go for the regular procurement, right? So the PPAP is like, it must be submitted and approved before the quantity or material shipment, right? Because what already onboarded the vendor or supplier, now the supplier cannot dispatch the material or component to you. Why? Because they have to have the approval from your side, right, as a PPAP or material qualification process. So then only they will be able to go for the regular production, right? When we talk about for discrete manufacturing, like PPAP is very popular. And talking about the submission levels, there are 5 submission levels. Fifth, level 3 is considered as the default level, where you as a customer, you can get the relevant documentation in terms of the PPAP, and you can give the approval. So level 5 is basically you will be witnessing the supplier process, vendor process, and you will be verifying all the steps in terms of the process, and you will give the approval so that they will be able to dispatch the materials or components. Levels are decided. So mainly you as a customer, you need to understand, let's say you have 100 suppliers, right? You cannot have the level 5 for everyone or level 3 for everyone. You need to have a criteria, right? Let's say 50 suppliers who are having the good quality reputation and also delivery status, right? And also they have a good expertise in the process, good controls in the process. So in that condition, you can have the level 3 submission, because no need to go and do the like physical audit and you are spending the time and resource for that audit. Instead of that, you should have the to improve the remaining suppliers where the part is very critical and the performance is not up to the mark. Go and spend the time, upgrade those suppliers, right? And when material qualification is required or the product qualification is required, so whenever you go for the new or change in materials or change in the technology, or the tools have been inactive for the 12 months or more, so these are the different examples, the qualification of the PPAP would be required. So now let us talk about the receiving inspection. The receiving inspection, we need to define direct online or non-direct online suppliers based on the past performance and criticality of the suppliers. So you can decide who are part of DOL and non-DOL, and the sampling plans based on the commodity of the parts, based on the criticality of the parts, you can the sampling plans. And agreement of inspections, performance based inspections, it means like, let's say you are doing the inspection that is a part of DOL, and how let's say there is a non-conformance observed in the DOL part, right, in the in process or during the manufacturing, right, then you have to make sure that that is automatically. Why? Because the DOL part has been rejected, right? So this is how, so you need to have a system to enforce the investigation and link with the SCAR or NC, so that that trigger will go to the suppliers and they have to submit the corrective action to you in a closed loop way. So this is how this will be linked with the relevant the processes, so that these will happen in a closed loop way, and we call it as a closed loop quality. And one more important thing is, whenever you do the receiving inspection, this needs to be linked with your supplier rating, because the supplier rating is one of the important thing where a real-time monitoring should happen. Whenever someone is doing the receiving inspection and the status has changed, that status needs to be linked with the supplier performance rating. Now let us talk about the supplier audits. And in this, again, the critical aspects related to supplier audit are, you need to have these in place. And most of the times as a customer, I have seen like they go for the audit without any objectives, without defining the scope, and conduct the audit, and face a lot of issues. We need to have a systematic process in place, like for which whenever we plan for the audit for the suppliers, we need to communicate well in advance. We need to have the objective audit, like what we are going to achieve by having this audit, and what should be the scope. Like you have to decide the boundaries, otherwise as an auditor we go and do some other activities also. So instead of that, we as an auditors, we need to understand what is the scope, what is the boundary, so that I have to be specific to that, right? So we need to also have the criteria. The suppliers also will understand, okay, the audit based on this reference document, this standard, this specification, so that that alignment will be there with the supplier and the customer. And one more important thing is like allocating the right resources, which is very important, because if someone is not having any knowledge about that particular process, and that person can be an auditor for the other processes, but we need to understand the competency and the knowledge related to the specific process, so that the audit will be more effective. Let us take an example in the audit process. Let's say your supplier is having around 30 processes, right? Considering the customer oriented, management oriented, support oriented processes, and 3 mandates are planned, just as an example, and total hours 24 hours, like 8 hours per mandate. So by forgetting these 30 processes, like customer oriented processes, there are 8, management oriented 12 out of 30, and support oriented there are 10 processes. So this bifurcation is there as a part of the total processes. So now how you're going to measure the performance for all these 30 processes? We as an organization, we need to have the criteria for it. right? So let's say some organization, they'll be having the criteria to just take the feedback, right? But like I have seen most of the organizations, they don't have a systematic criteria to measure the performance of each process. So here at the right hand side, you can see the categorization, what is the performance, whether it is in red, yellow, green, and how this categorization will come based on the customer complaints or internal audit findings for each process, or customer scorecards. Like the scorecard will tell process related issues are observed, or critical processes. Like this, you can have your own criteria, and based on that criteria, overall performance, right? Red, yellow, green. So in this, you can, based on this categorization, like critical, less critical, not critical, right? So you can have the good, average, and bad performance level. Okay, so here you can see for me, the critical processes, good means G, Y, or red. So like this are being like categorized here. So I can see the critical processes based on this criteria. So I have observed that one process is in good condition, the performance is good, and 3 processes are in yellow and 4 are in red. It means the performance is not up to the mark based on the decided criteria. So like this, you can have the same way you can make critical and not critical, so that you will be having the overall status for green, yellow, and so here at the bottom side, you can see there are categorization. Out of this, I have concluded that there are 9 which are part of red, 9 which are part of yellow category, and 12 which are part of green category. So if you look at the total processes, I have 30% of the processes which are in red category, and 30% in again yellow, and 40% in green category. So you decide, like let's say for the based on the criticality, you have decided to give 60% or 50% of the time for the red categorization. So that is how you decide. Here you can put the 50%, so that out of 24 hours, I'll be spending 12 hours for the red categorization processes, right? Or 7.2 hours, like 30% for the yellow categorization. So like this, you internally decide the criteria, and based on that, you allocate the time, like 1.3 hours for each process. So like this is just as an example. So it will give you a guideline or the reference, so that you can have your own criteria to make your supplier audits more effective. So now let us talk about the change management. Is also very important. In change management, we this will help you to meet your different change management. Like it can be a product change, it can be material change, process change, or any type of different changes can be managed by using the change management flow, this module, right? So in the change management, all these different type of changes needs to have the risk assessment and feasibility studies linked, because every change needs to have the risk assessment and feasibility, the linkage, because you need to have understand what will be the risk for each change, right? And you have to have the requalification process after every change, so that before implementation, the requalification needs to be done with the as a part of the material approval process or the PPAP, so that and also the documentation update, so that the change will be implemented in a systematic way. So this is one of the standard flow where you can see the change initiation happens. If you're using, most of the organization, they use PLM, where they manage the engineering changes there, but using this particular platform, you can initiate all different type of changes in terms of manufacturing as well. So those change triggers will come from PLMs, and the change, once it is initiated, it will go for the review. Then as feasibility or the risk assessment will happen, then what will be the impact level, right? If the material qualification is required or the PPAP is required, go to this particular workflow, right? And you will be updating the actions, like to implement any of the change, there will be multiple actions, and the final verification will be there as a part of the effectiveness check, and where you'll be monitoring you'll be having the dashboard where you'll be monitoring the trends or the analysis related to the change management process. The same change may also have the impact on the documents, and may also training, so that trigger training process. So this is how you can just see here, like 3 to 4 different processes which are interacting to each other. So this is how all these activities are executed in a closed loop way. So now let us talk about the supplier corrective actions. As a part of the supplier corrective action process, like as a customer, we need to have the methodology in place. Like I, as a customer, I will inform, like I will put this customer problems as a part of my CS, that my suppliers or vendors will be following that problem solving methodology whenever there is a supply issues observed, right? So we have to have a clear SCAR issuance triggers, like for repeated NCs or complaints, audit findings, escape, so that we can track all those different categorization and we can analyze where the major gap is observed in terms of repeated issues or the new complaints or audit findings or whichever the category would be, right? So we need to have methodology. This is just an example. Like most of the organization customers, they have their own customer specific problem resolution approach or method, so that they can approach their supply. And sustenance verification should be there as a part of this supplier corrective action, because once they implement the corrective action, right, your suppliers, you need to have the sustenance verification. After 45 days, your team will be visiting your supplier's facility and they will be verifying the overall status of the implemented action. Where you can also get the online, so that be measured and the issue can be closed. And as I mentioned, supplier corrective action is one of the important aspects which will be linked with your supplier performance, so that your supplier performance is triggered by the receiving inspection process. It will be triggered by the like supplier corrective actions, because how many observed, how many actions they have taken. So those will be linked with the supplier performance monitoring process, where you can see the real-time performance in terms of the rejection, in terms of the non-conformances, in terms of the audit score. Your person has gone for the supplier audit and they are doing the audit digitally, and that audit score is linked with your supplier performance audit, so that your management there the overall status of the overall supplier. Now let us talk about the supplier rating, right? As a part of the supplier rating, most of the organizations, they have their own criteria in terms of the quality, delivery, premium freight, or it can be the special status, it can be the rejection. So there will be multiple categorization of aspects which will be a part of your supplier performance management process, right? This is just an example where you can see where you can have the PPM or the part of your supply rating criteria, or it can be a line stoppage, on-time delivery, premium of occurrences of premium freights, any special status. Special status, the meaning of special status is if any of the major issues observed in terms of the quality or delivery, right? Sometimes even the certification bodies, they also withdraw the certification because of the major issues occurred at the supplier end, right? So if any those kind of issues are observed, you can keep that categorization also as a part of your supply rating. Or it can be a warranty, or it can be an health issues also. Let's say if I talk about the F&B, right, any safety concern, health concern from the market, right? So those things also you can add here as a part of your criteria. Or it can be in pharma also, you can have the health and safety related one more categorization, where you can give the it can be a major contributor as a part of your supply rating criteria. So like this is just a sample where the platform or the application will allow you to have criteria, so that the trigger or the linkage will have processes where you can monitor your supplier rating in a real-time basis. So where you can have the categorization, it can be high, medium, low, red, yellow, green, or it can be ABC. So based on your own criteria, that can be easily configured in the application, so that a real-time monitoring will happen. So now let us understand leveraging the digital QMS for your supplier management. How you can leverage the different digital solutions like ETQ QMS, right? So our ETQ Reliance NXG, this next generation QMS, is having 42 plus applications. It comes with 9 application sets. So all these 42 plus applications are designed with the best in class practices. So as I shown you, all the different processes are covered with the best in class industry practices. so that out of the box, capability will allow you to meet your all the customer requirements and also the standard requirements. So all these 42 plus applications comes with one platform as an ETQ. So one agile platform. This is hosted in cloud, which is AWS, which also can be integrated with your ERP, PLM, CRM, or any other third-party solutions, so that it will become a single source of truth for you. Okay. And one of the important thing is like this platform is having the capability of a configuration management. So here you can see the drag and drop is, so that you might be thinking that all these processes will be having the best in class practices, but few of your requirements will be there, like how to address those requirements. So this drag and drop is means like even the non-IT people, they can configure their own requirements. It's like drag and drop, those kind of features. So that non-IT people, when they have the process knowledge, they can add the any of the sections, they can modify the templates so that the add-on requirements will own organization and the customer requirements can be easily configured in the solution, so that it will become a tailored solution for you, tailored platform for you. Now let us understand at an organization level. Covering the at an organization level, you can just just imagine like right from the new product introduction to the customer feedback management, all the different processes can be managed by using the single platform. So here you can see a project management or APQP, or for HACCP is one of the mandatory process, or even PRPs, prerequisite programs, or FMEAs will be a part of this NPI, or PPAP or material qualification process will be a part of NPI. Change management, as I covers all the type of change. All these will be a part of the new product introduction, which can also talk to the PLM, so that required information can come from PLM, and the other activities, the material qualification, training, documentation, updation, all these can happen in a closed loop way. So this will connect to your supply chain management. As I mentioned, like this particular webinar is focused on the supplier management. Here you can see we have already covered right from the supplier onboarding to the receiving inspection, supplier rating, all these management. So let's say you have multiple facilities, right, where all these facilities can be supported by the common processes like supply chain, new product introduction, and also the common processes like audit, risk, training, management review, document control, so that you will be managing the internal audits, all your facility related audits by using this, and also your supplier audits. So like this, so having one enterprise level solution will help own QMS requirements, and also you can extend this system to your suppliers with your supplier level. So like this, at an enterprise level, it will help requirements. So at the receiving station, like at this stage, you can integrate with your ERP, so that the sampling inspection, dual, non-dual criteria, enforced investigations, all those will be a part of the receiving inspection. And from the inspection stage, digitally you are inspection, and if there is a non-conformance, that trigger will go to the NC handling, and there will be a CAPA or SCAR will be linked to this. If this NC is related to internal stakeholders, they have to submit CAPA. If this is related to external like suppliers, then they will get the automated notification and they have to submit the SCAR. And as a part of the customer feedback, if you use any CRM tools, then those feedbacks will come to our ETQ solution, so that feedback will be linked with the CAPA or any other non-conformance management, so that those activities will happen in a closed loop way. So now let us move to the demonstration session. Like before that, you need to understand the scenario. So I will take one of the example. Let's say you as a customer increase in the capacity, you decided, your management has asked you, or your supply chain team have decided to identify one of the new supplier, right? So that supplier needs to be assessed here, and once the assessment is done, then again the material qualification has to be done there. So once the material qualification is done, then your team will receive the material, procurement will happen, and they have to do the inspection. On the inspection, activities are interlinked, right? So this scenario has been considered here. Okay, So let's say the first activity will happen as the supplier qualification or vendor qualification. For this, you'll be conducting the audit based on your own criteria. As I mentioned, you will be having the criteria in terms of quality, cost, in terms of delivery, in terms of resource, in terms of the contingency, or there will be many different criteria like as a part of the supplier qualification. So once it is done, then it will be a part of your approved suppliers, approved materials. Then before going for the procurement, so you have to have the material qualification. It can be recipe qualification, material qualification, product qualification. So once then you will be receiving the materials, raw materials or the parts at your facility. So once these are received, then based on your incoming inspection plan, right? So your inspection team will verify the material as per the sampling plan, as per the criteria. Once the inspection is done, let's say the outcome is non-conformance, right? Then the NC will be linked with multiple decision where you want to scrap it, you want to rework it, or you want to or send it back to the suppliers. So there will be multiple decisions based on this, right? Let's say this is related to internal stakeholders. Internal stakeholders have to submit the CAPA for it. If it is related to external stakeholders like suppliers, they have to submit the SCAR, right? Then this will be also linked with the deviation. If your team has decided to take the go for as is, then deviation will be linked. So this is how the actions, if these are impacting to the documents, then the documents will get automatically get triggered. The author of the documents, they have to get it reviewed and approved. And if those documents requires training, then that will be linked with the training. How your supplier rating will get automatically updated based on the receiving inspection, based on the number of non-conformances, based on the audit score, based on the corrective actions, based on the deviations. So like this, and this is how it will be linked. And based on the supplier rating, let's say high, medium, low, or red, yellow, green. For red categorization, from there itself you can initiate the SCAR, so that they have to submit the SCAR to upgrade their rating. And based on the SCAR, if they are going for any change, then again the change management will be linked with this. And from the change management, again material approvals will be linked. Receiving the revised materials from this level. So this is how the overall supplier management can be executed in a closed loop way, and that is how we call it as a closed loop quality. So now the same scenario I will demonstrate you with the platform. I think before that, Ashwini can proceed for the polls. Yeah, Ashwini.
Thank you, Suryakant. Thank you for your great insight so far about the topic. I appreciate everyone's valuable feedback so far, what we have received. Now, to facilitate further discussion, I'm going to introduce few polls below and your contributions for the same. Your participation will be instrumental in gathering varied perspectives and understanding about the topic. So let me just introduce the poll quickly. Hope the poll screen is visible to all. If it is visible, please type in yes in chat window. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your feedback. Nish, thank you, Mama. Thank you for your feedback. Just a couple more and kind of move on to the next poll. Great. So we have got 75% for this poll. Request to Those who have not contributed, I request you to participate in the poll. Thank you, Janardhan, for your feedback. We have got a vote for this poll. Now, next poll. Meantime, I encourage you to drop your queries because after the demo session, we are going to have the question and answer session wherein you can have an opportunity to directly talk to our expert, Suryakant. It 50% vote. Could see some of the questions in the chat window. Thank you. I'm taking the note of it and we will address that in the Q&A session. Just a couple of seconds more. Great. 60%. I could see some of the questions flowing in the chat window. Great. Thank you for your contribution and making this engaging session. Great. So I'm closing this poll. Thank you. We have got 60% vote. Great. Ready with the demo session?
Dhanashwini?
Yeah, are you ready with the demo?
Yes.
Session?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, over to you then. I think we are done with the poll.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, everyone. So now let us proceed with the demonstration. Once I do the login, so I'll be able to see this homepage. Okay, where I can see the pending activities through this calendar, and I can also track the pending assignments from which date to which date. How many assignments are pending? The last 7 activities are pending. So like this, I can track my activities here. Any specific trainings are assigned, those will be visible here. And this is not the fixed one, where if you want the specific information to be configured here, those can be easily configured, and so your users can be able to see that home page here. Okay, so now going to the my charts, where my department related, like let's say I'm from quality, so quality related all the information like corrective action closure, NC closure, the status of all the customer complaints. So like this, I'm able to see all those charts, and these charts will allow you to directly go to these sections. Let's say 19 status points. So I can directly go and see these 19 complaints in terms of the a different categorization like this. So all these can be user level, dashboards or the sample charts where your team can access this. And department level, the charts will be different. So now going to the application section, since I'm using the demo environment, so all these different applications will be visible here, like right from EHS, like accident safety reporting, incident management, asset calibration, or audit management, behavior-based safety. So there are 42 plus applications meet the different sector specific requirements, right? See the compliance obligations and talking about the FMB, the HACCP process is very, very critical. FMEA, so like this, we have the applications which will help you to meet your own requirements, right? And also the customer requirements. So now I will take one of the example, like let's say the one of the right from the same scenario, you have onboarded one supplier and till the rating level. So all this information let us understand through this platform. I'm initiating right from the audit plan. Let's say one of the supplier has an A1 autoclast, or one of the vendor, right, has been initially assessed from your team, right? So this is the information, like who was the auditor, on which date the audit was conducted. So all this information is available. So now you'd like to see the audit report. So the audit report is already linked here because this is already executed. So no need to go to a separate place and find this audit report. These are interlinked. If I click here, it will take me to the audit report, where you can see the audit information. Like you can see the overall audit summary here. Like overall audit was found satisfactory, and this supplier is meeting all the major requirement, and there was one of the minor non-conformity in terms of the process flow. Okay, so that is the reason the audit was acceptable. And you can also see the audit report, who prepared the frequency, all the other information, like head SQA from Hexagon, like this is the audit report prepared by. So like this, you will find all the information. Now, if you want to see the who was participated in the audit and the audit checklist, you can see the overall status. Out of 100, that supplier scored 82 marks, right? And total 18 one minor non-compliance and one excellent. So this categorization, the status is there. So now you would like to see the checklist, because you have seen the overall audit report and you want to see the checklist. Now, if I click on this, it will take me to a checklist, okay, initial assessment, where you to see all the checkpoints. Like the first checkpoint, minimum 9001, whether they have the roadmap for ISO 22K or like 13485. So like this, you can have the different checkpoints where auditor has given the remark here, and auditor has evidences here, take the photographs, and the risk level can also. So like this, you can see status for each checkpoint. Okay, so like this, and there was a minor non-compliance related to one of the which was the latest revision was 2, but it was found with the revision 1. So that was a minor non-compliance. Okay, so now if you click on this kappa, it will take me to a, again, all these threads are interlinked. I'm not going to the separate corrective action process where you will find there also, but here it will take you to the specific corrective action, where you can see the containment action. So who did this containment action? The supplier, right? So supplier 1 or vendor 1. So immediate corrective action, right? So the you can see the action plan, right? So these two are the action plan. The process flow is being updated as per the revision 2, and the review frequency is also plan. You can also download and see the attachment which is submitted by the supplier, right? And you can also see the effectiveness check from your side. You as a customer, you did the effectiveness check and you found everything acceptable. So as of now, you onboarded the supplier, you raised the non-conformances, you taken the corrective action, means you received the corrective action from the supplier. So now your supplier has to go for the material qualification or product qualification. Then our one more application, material qualification, where you can see all this information, reason for submission, why you are submitting this, since it is the initial submission as a part of the new supplier. Then you can see the requirements, what are the requirements, whether these are impacting to the legal requirements, yes or no, and those impact also can be linked here. And you can also have the requirements, like what kind of requirements are there. So all these requirements, documentation which are received from the supplier, those can be linked with this as a part of the material qualification and final submission or the sign off from the customer. So like this, the material qualification is done. So initial assessment is done, onboarded, the NC is closed with the corrective action, then the material qualification is done. Then your material management team, procurement team, they will be able to receive the part from the vendor now. So here, once you receive the part from your vendor, then you'll be able to see, which part was received and how many quantities, right? How many batches were received, on which, so all the status can be seen here. Now if I click on this link, it will take me to a report, the inspection report, where I can see this supplier, which part, right? And status, like, you know, you can have the shipment level criteria, whether how they have the acceptance tag, they have the test certificates of PDI reports. So like this, you can have the shipment level criteria, you can have the quantitative criteria where different parameters will be a part of it. You can also have the qualitative criteria. So like this, quantitative, qualitative criteria, and also the shipment level criteria will be a part of your receiving inspection. So now if you look at the bottom side, the overall status is failed. So it means like some of the are not met as per the desired outcome, where you can see the detailed result also if you click on here, right? So here, if I click on non-conformance, because the quality team has to raise the non-conformance because the result is failed, right? If I click on the NC details, now I'll be able to see all the NC details, like what is the product details, what is the process information, from which process it was observed, what is the problem containment action. They displayed the 1 point lesson, and all the parts or the batches are verified, the stock is also verified. So these are the different containment actions which was taken from the supplier, right? The same supplier. So where you can also see the verification, what risk assessment has been captured. So like this, there are a lot of other provisions. You can link these NC with the risk to mitigate the risk level. Okay, so now talking about the product information here, this non-conformance has two different outcomes. Whether this was the fault was related to supplier, yes, okay, to have the SCAR for it, supplier corrective action for it. And your team has also decided to use as is condition. It means like a deviation. You don't want to reject this batch, or you don't want to reject these parts. You want to have a deviation because there is no impact on the health, or there is no impact on the functionality, right? Then the deviation. So the same NC process is linked with the SCAR and also the deviation process. I can click on the deviation and I can see the deviation details, like who gave the approval, right? And what was the reason for this deviation? How many parts are being, how many batches have been given for this deviation. Like this, I can see the information as a part of the deviation process. And each process like CAPA, PPAP, or material qualification, receiving, has the digital workflows like this. Okay, you will find the digital workflows. All these happen in a digital. The relevant stakeholders will get the automated notification. They have to close it. So like this, you will find the deviation process, and also the SCAR. As I mentioned, the SCAR. This is also linked with the. See the SCAR details, which was submitted by the supplier. You can see the containment action. These are, and you can also see the corrective actions. So these are the different root causes which are identified the supplier, and these are the corrective actions. Now the point is, if you look at this corrective action, like tool we are monitoring and tool life analysis, they have updated this in the procedure of tooling management. Now again, this tooling management procedure is available in document control process, but this linkage is already established. If I click here, it will take me to a specific document which was already updated. Revision 1. You can also see the training details, whether the training was given or not given, so that the training application will be linked to this. And you can also see the document body where the tooling management procedure has been updated. And talking about the revision history, you can see the same reasons like tool change frequency and the monitoring and maintenance. So like this, all these, right from onboarding to the supplier performance monitoring, right? So you supplier rating application, you can see this overall supplier rating based on all these different activities, and all these happens in a closed loop way. Since it takes a lot of time, so I try to cover a lot of aspects in a small duration. If you have any requirement and if you want to know more about it, definitely you can connect with us, right? So that we can give you a detailed demonstration, and also we help you to have the discovery analysis so that you can understand what are the gaps, what are the improvement areas, and we also help you to make a business case so that